Picture a millionaire. What do you see? A penthouse apartment? A Ferrari in the driveway? Designer clothes and Rolex watches? Now, let me tell you what an actual millionaire looks like based on the largest study of wealthy Americans ever conducted. He's a 57-year-old man. He's been married to the same woman for most of his adult life. He drives a used car, probably a Ford or a Toyota. He lives in a middle-class neighborhood, and his neighbors have no idea he's worth over $1 million. Chapter 1 of The Millionaire Next Door rips apart everything you think you know about wealth, and once you see the truth, you'll never look at money the same way again. Let's get into it. Authors Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent over 20 years studying millionaires in America. Not celebrities, not tech founders, ordinary, everyday millionaires. And what they found shocked even them. Here's the statistical profile of a typical American millionaire from their research. First, they are self-made. Over 80% of American millionaires are first-generation rich. They didn't inherit their wealth, they built it from scratch. The idea that most wealthy people were born into money is simply wrong. Second, they are surprisingly frugal. The average millionaire in their study had never spent more than $399 on a suit, $140 on a pair of shoes, or $235 on a wristwatch. These are people worth millions who shop like they earn a fraction of that. Third, they live well below their means. Most millionaires don't live in the wealthiest neighborhoods. Why? Because people in wealthy neighborhoods spend money to look wealthy. Real millionaires would rather build wealth than display it. Fourth, they allocate their time and money efficiently. They spend significantly more time planning their finances and investments than the average American. They budget, they track expenses, they know exactly where their money goes. Fifth, they chose the right occupation. The most common occupations among millionaires are not doctors or lawyers, they're business owners. Self-employed people make up less than 20% of workers, but account for over 2/3 of millionaires. Stanley and Danko introduce a critical concept, the difference between income and wealth. Income is what you earn, wealth is what you keep, and these are completely different things. They give a formula to test whether you're building wealth effectively. Take your age, multiply it by your pre-tax annual household income, and divide by 10. That's your expected net worth. If your actual net worth is above that number, you're a prodigious accumulator of wealth, a PAW. If you're below it, you're an underaccumulator of wealth, a UAW. A doctor earning $300,000 a year who spends $295,000 on a luxury lifestyle is a UAW, high income, low wealth. A plumber earning $80,000 who saves and invests $30,000 a year is a PAW, modest income, real wealth. The plumber will almost certainly end up richer than the doctor. Stanley and Danko tell a story early in their research that perfectly captures this chapter's message. They were hired to study wealthy Americans, so they organized a focus group in an upscale area of New York. They rented a fancy room, brought in expensive food like pâté, fine wine, caviar, because they assumed millionaires would expect that kind of treatment. The actual millionaires showed up and were completely uncomfortable. They didn't touch the caviar, they asked for beer. One millionaire later told the researchers, "I drink 2 kinds of beer, Free and Budweiser." These weren't people pretending to be modest. This was genuinely how they lived. They had built their fortunes precisely because they didn't waste money on luxury when ordinary would do. Meanwhile, Stanley and Danko noticed something fascinating about the people who did look wealthy, the ones driving BMWs and wearing Armani in affluent neighborhoods. When they actually measured their net worth, most of these people were not millionaires at all. They were high-income earners who spent everything they made, sometimes more. Stanley coined a brilliant phrase for this: big hat, no cattle. It comes from Texas, where some ranchers wear enormous cowboy hats but own no actual cattle. They look the part but have nothing behind the image. The research showed that the majority of people living in expensive homes and driving luxury cars are not actually wealthy. They're playing a part. The truly wealthy are invisible, living in modest homes, driving practical cars, and quietly compounding their net worth year after year. This chapter's message has become even more relevant in the age of social media. In 2023, the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances revealed something striking. The median net worth of American households headed by someone aged 55 to 64 was about $364,000. That's after a lifetime of earning. Meanwhile, a study by Ramsey Solutions found that the average American millionaire drove a car that was 4 years old, and the most popular brands were Toyota, Honda, and Ford, and not BMW, Mercedes, or Tesla. But scroll through Instagram or TikTok and you'd think everyone under 30 is living in a luxury apartment, wearing designer brands, and taking first-class flights. The fake rich culture has exploded. There's even a term for it now, doom spending, where young people spend money they don't have to project a lifestyle they can't afford, driven by social media comparison. A 2024 Credit Karma survey found that 59% of Gen Z respondents admitted to spending more than they could afford to keep up appearances. Nearly 40% had gone into debt specifically to match their peers' lifestyles on social media. Stanley and Danko predicted this phenomenon decades ago. They showed that the pressure to display wealth is the single greatest destroyer of actual wealth. Every dollar spent on looking rich is a dollar that can't compound into real wealth. The millionaire next door in 2024 is probably the person in your office who brings lunch from home, drives a 5-year-old Camry, and quietly maxes out their retirement accounts. They're not posting about it. That's the point. There's a deeper psychological insight in this chapter that most readers miss. Stanley and Danko aren't just saying spend less. They're revealing a fundamental mindset difference between wealth builders and wealth destroyers. UAWs, under accumulators of wealth, define success by consumption. A bigger house means you're doing well. A nicer car means you've made it. Their self-worth is tied to what other people can see. PAWs, prodigious accumulators of wealth, define success by financial independence. They don't care what their neighbors think. They care about whether they could stop working tomorrow and maintain their lifestyle for decades. Their self-worth comes from security, not status. This is actually a deeply countercultural idea. Our entire economy is built on persuading you to spend. Advertising, social pressure, lifestyle inflation, all of it pushes you toward consumption. The millionaire next door has somehow made themselves immune to that pressure. And here's the part that really makes you think. Stanley and Danko found that this frugal mindset is not a sacrifice for these people. The millionaires in their study didn't feel deprived. They genuinely didn't want the expensive things. They got more satisfaction from watching their net worth grow than from any luxury purchase. It's not willpower. It's a completely different value system. They find spending wasteful the same way a fitness enthusiast finds junk food unappealing. It's not discipline, it's identity. That's the real lesson. Becoming wealthy isn't about earning more or restricting yourself. It's about fundamentally changing what you value. This chapter hit me hard when I first read it. We're all surrounded by signals telling us what success looks like, and almost all of those signals are about spending, not saving. The person who looks most successful in your social circle is almost never the wealthiest. They're usually the most indebted. What I find most powerful about Stanley and Danko's research is that it's not theory, it's data. They surveyed thousands of actual millionaires, and the numbers tell an undeniable story that wealth and display of wealth are inversely correlated. The wealthiest people you'll ever meet are probably the ones you'd never guess. They're not trying to impress you. They're too busy building something real. There are 3 takeaways from this chapter. First, calculate your expected net worth using Stanley's formula. Age times pre-tax income divided by 10. Are you a PAW or a UAW? Be honest. This single number tells you more about your financial health than your salary ever could. If you're below the number, that's not a judgment. It's a starting point. Second, track where your money actually goes for 1 month. Most people have no idea how much they spend on non-essentials. Stanley found that millionaires know exactly where every dollar goes. You can't build wealth if you don't know where it's leaking. 1 month of honest tracking will shock you. Third, redefine what rich looks like in your mind. Stop associating wealth with visible luxury. Start associating it with financial freedom, the ability to walk away from any job, handle any emergency, and never worry about money again. That mental shift is the foundation everything else is built on. Chapter 1 reveals the biggest lie about wealth, that you can see the wealth, but you can't. Real wealth is invisible, and that's what makes it powerful. In the next video, we'll dive into Chapter 2, where Stanley and Danko go deeper into frugality and show you exactly how millionaires think about spending versus saving. If this opened your eyes about what wealth really looks like, hit subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next one.